Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, so this is the second installment of the EEA Trusted Compute Working Group monthly webinar and open hour for questions after this presentation. We are going to talk today about Propeller Head Crypto at scale. Why we'll need ZK-ZK-Rollups for real enterprise use cases. And as you can see on the right hand side, we're talking about privacy and trusted compute and zero knowledge. So let's get going here. And feel free to ask questions in the chat. And then Brianna, you can bring them up at a point in time, and I'll stop and ask whether there have been any questions. I don't want to lose anyone, so that's really important. I can monitor the chat myself, so I need a little bit of help here. All right, let's get going. So I think everybody is aware that the physical and the digital worlds are merging, right? So that has led and is leading to a Cambrian explosion of new digital assets. You can think of it. It probably exists somewhere. Where it used to be, there's an app for that. I would now say there's a digital asset for that. Houses, cars, memorabilia, commercial documents, those are all kind of fall into the category of non-fungible digital assets. But we also have fungible assets. Assets. Liquidity rewards, utility tokens with programmatic value. That is leading to tensions between different worldviews, as we all know. On the one hand, we have our opaque and centralized world, the old world, so to speak, meeting the world of that is transparent and decentralized. And that leads to conflict, as we all know. And prominent projects in the decentralized space are being chased by regulators and sued in court. However, there is a gray area, as we all know, and there's what I call like a chimeran area between the two. I think there lies a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. Where things are privacy preserving yet verifiable, decentralized yet controlled, really fast yet secure. Where is that going? Well, imagine you had a traditional investment fund which can be audited by anyone, anytime, in real time, where the fund operators cannot cheat, where investors can move between traditional and crypto assets back and forth, all the while maintaining complete confidentiality and regulatory compliance. Or an asset exchange with high-frequency trading, which can be audited by anyone, anytime, in real time, where the exchange cannot cheat, where investors can swap between traditional and crypto assets, all the while maintaining complete confidentiality and regulatory compliance. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? Or a supply chain network which can. A gaming platform which can. Payment network which can. What does this mean, really, if we could do that? That means we have higher trust. We have lower cost than what we currently have. We have more flexibility and choice. And we get faster processing. So really, we're getting the best of both worlds. right? That sounds like a little too good to be true, right? Well, how's that possible? Well, you have your technology stack. You have your application, then you have an application abstraction layer, you have a middleware layer. This all sounds awfully familiar. Now you have a processing or L2 layer. That could be a network. And then you have a public blockchain, right? So as we know, public blockchains are very secure. So as we go down in the stack, security increases. Whereas public blockchains are not very private. As we go up in the stack, privacy increases. Also, speed increases, right? Public blockchains are not really fast on purpose, right? They're supposed to be slow because that makes them really secure. And control increases as we go up the stack. You know, there's no central operator in a public blockchain, but you control your own application and application abstraction layer. So if those couple of top layers sound awfully familiar, they are, because it is traditional enterprise software. Now here in that processing L2 layer, that's the magic layer of privacy and speed. That's where that's that gray area, right? And now moving below that, we enter the known crypto world. So remember I talked about the Chimeran era, that's area, that's exactly it. That magic layer of privacy and speed. Now, you have, of course, the right to ask, what's so magic about the magic layer? Well, we have privacy. How do we do that? Zero knowledge proofs of transactions with strong encryption using the latest cryptography techniques. You'll say, all right, okay, so, but that is not typically very fast. Well, it's secure for sure, because the way this is built on top of the public blockchain, it inherits the security assurances from the public blockchain, because the asset data is directly available on the public blockchain to be used. But because we're off chain and now we can parallelize the problem, we are picking up speed. So we parallelize the problems. We're rolling up transactions by batching them with proofs, primarily then through recursive proof systems. That means we have less cost per transactions on the blockchain. But we have picked up a lot of speed, and the processing off chain is cheap. Verifiability. So now anyone can verify proofs on the public chain. Proofs recursively verify all asset transactions backwards. So that's the power of recursiveness. And nothing is finalized until proofs are verified on the public blockchain. So privacy, security, speed, and verifiability. Therefore, the magic layer has, in summary, the same security assurances as the public blockchain used, between 100 and 1,000 times more scalability, guaranteed data availability, which is a big one. Privacy is preserved at all times, much less transaction fees, verifiability of all proofs by anyone on chain, and it allows for KYC and AML on the top layers. So that's pretty cool. What it's not is that's not very transparent, but it doesn't have to be, especially for enterprises. Actually, it's not, they don't want transparency. And it's not necessarily censorship resistance or very decentralized. The enterprises don't really care about that. So, you know, we're good. We're good there, right? But at the same time, we are the key things that we need, security, that's decentralized, no single point of failure. So 2 thumbs up on that one. So when we talk about scale, what scale are we actually talking about? Well, let me give you an example, and let's go back to that asset fund, right? Let's take the example of a fully publicly verifiable investment fund of asset-backed securities. So let's take it not too big. Let's take a traditional fund, assets under management, somewhere between 100 million to $1 billion. Let's say our average asset value is, let's say, between $1 million and 10 million. That means we on average are going to do 100 to 1,000 new transactions, probably 100 to 1,000 redemptions, depending on the fund rules. So we're talking about 200 to 2,000 transactions total. That's not a whole lot, is it? Right? Wait, what about the crypto tokens? Damn, forgot about that one. Well, each asset transaction is at least one token USD transaction too. So we have now, 400 to 4,000 transactions a day. Still not that bad. But wait, investors need to get the USD token pair distributed too, right? They need to be able to see it in their accounts. They need to be able to then immediately withdraw that if they want to. What do we have? What does it mean? Okay, so now we have 1,000 to 10,000 investors. If you multiply that with 400 to 4,000, then we're talking about 400,000 to 40 million transactions a day. Now we're talking, right? Because remember, everything needs to be verifiable. Every single transaction, every single new transaction, the redemptions, how each new incoming asset is going to be distributed to every single investor, and all of this in zero knowledge. So we have a lot of transactions, and it has to be done on a public blockchain. So reminder, Ethereum processes around 1.3 million transactions a day, or 130 million with ETH2. So that's pretty bad, right? So not really doable. What we need fancy batching with full privacy to get to where we need to go. So full privacy, so we need zero knowledge proofs all the way, easy auditability, right? All changes to the fund need to be traceable and verifiable on a public blockchain. All assets / token ZK proofs and their genealogy need to be verifiable on a public blockchain. So all the transactions history need to be there. We have to have fancy batches, so roll up of all changes in zero knowledge with their proofs, with a ZK proof that all proofs were correctly rolled up. So the ZK proof of the ZK proofs of the ZK proofs. And we need low cost. So loads of transactions that don't require a lot of space and can be cheaply verified on a public blockchain. That sounds like ZK cubed? It is. If that sounds like orc, it is. So are we screwed? Did I tell you all this, set up these huge expectations and say to just let you down? Not quite yet. So talked a lot about ZK proofs. So let's keep the suspension, right? I told you we're not yet quite screwed, but I'm not going to tell you yet how we're not quite screwed, right? So I extend that tension, that anticipation a little bit more, because not everybody might know what actually a zero knowledge proof is. So let me backtrack for a couple of seconds. What's the intuitive example? You saw that on the first slide. It's Alibaba's cave. So really, Jeremy is asking David, show me that you can walk through the cave from entrance A to exit B. And you know that there's a door with a lock in between. So if David can do that, it's a combination lock, right? If David knows the combination, he opens the door and walks through, then Jeremy knows that David knows the combination, but David hasn't shared the combination with Jeremy. He just has proven to Jeremy that he has that knowledge. Right, so that's what a zero knowledge proof is in principle. Is that very useful? Not really. So a real world example would be more of an account balance, right? Prove that your account balance is above a certain number, $100,000 or lower, right? So that means a verifier gets a proof that from the prover, right? That same custom request that has been sent to the prover in order to construct the proof, right? And then you have the proof logic. Those are the three inputs: the proof, the custom request, and the proof logic, right? And that goes into the proof verification, right? So there was some fancy cryptography that produced the proof. There is some public input, and there's some proof logic with some keys for verification, and outcomes is simple 0 or 1. So that simply says, yes, the account balance is above 100,000 or no. You don't know exactly what it is, but you've just proven in zero knowledge that it is above 100,000 without revealing the actual account balance. That is actually useful. Why? Well, think about if you needed to when you buy a house for the loan to get qualified, you need to show them your bank statements, everything. That's not really very privacy preserving, is it? With this, you can do, but they really only need to see that you have a provable account balance, cash on hand of a certain amount. So this is a way, for example, to be able to prove to the bank or any other lender that you have actually enough cash in the bank to get the loan, or that your monthly income over the last 3 months has been above a certain threshold, without revealing your W-2 statements or your 1099s or whatever other it's like tax information you have to provide to your lender. These are all very concrete, real world examples how zero knowledge could be used effectively to prove things. After this little excursion, and let me pause here for a second. Are there any questions that have come up so far? No? Okay, I see 4 comments in the chat. I don't see what it is. So if there are no questions in there, I think then that's or provocative statements.
There is one question. It says, by that definition, isn't a digital signature also a zero knowledge proof? Because the signature proves you have the private key without revealing what it is.
That is indeed true. Yes. That is true, right? You prove that you have a private key, that you have the private key that belongs to the public key, that comes with a digital signature. Absolutely. All right. So moving on, coming back to, are we screwed? Not yet. Question and statement. So that's, again, we have a round peg and a square hole, or the other way around. We have a round hole and a square peg. So what type of ZK proofs do we need to round the peg to fit into the round hole? Well, first, proofs must be efficient, succinct, and verifiable on a public blockchain. So that means they must be small in size and fast to verify, since no one wants to spend a lot of money on fees. Proofs need to be recursive. So you have ZK proofs of ZK proofs of ZK proofs. That's a big one, because one must verify a ZK proof within another ZK system. That is non-trivial. Hold on for 1 second. But there's background noise. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Apologies. So yeah, recursive proofs, that's highly non-trivial. There's some really fancy cryptographic footwork that needs to be done, but it's doable. Proof generation needs to be fast, so it must pack more logic into a ZK system than simply add and multiply operations, without blowing up the ZK system size to verify the ZK proofs. That's actually a big one, because you can have very large proof systems, circuit sizes. They already typically are on the size of gigabytes. But if you try to do it without some fancy trickery, the circuit sizes are just way too big. The zero knowledge circuits that prove a statement, it's just way too big if you need to prove other ZK proofs within that. So, and lastly, we want no or just a limited number of trusted setups. So ZK systems, what does that mean? ZK systems often require some crypto magic to start that is compute intensive. That can't happen every day at scale. Plus, every setup event is a security risk. Plus, generating more keys, in this case verification keys, out of the setup means more on the public blockchain. So, you know, we don't want to overload a public good. So what is available that fits our bill? So common ZK prover systems don't fulfill all 4 requirements that we have. More advanced ZK prover systems mostly fulfill all 4 requirements, except for one little bit important detail: public blockchain support of the crypto used. That really leaves only like TurboPlunk and StarkX from Starkware. Both run in production on Ethereum today, and both can do ZK proofs. All right, so how will this work, right? What are, you know, the ZKs of the ZKs of the ZKs rolled up? Well, we start with trees, which is nice. We like trees. In fact, there are 2 trees. And those trees have, you know, as what trees have, they have leaves. Some have needles, but in our case, we have leaves. So there's a node tree where the leaves represent the state history of assets and token USD pairs. So, and we have a nullifier tree where the leaves represent the old equal invalid state of assets and tokens slash US dollars. So how do the trees grow leaves? Well, for simplicity, let's start at the end. An asset is sold and tokens are destroyed, right? So your fund sells an asset. So what happens here? The asset is sold. So there we have this old asset leaf that's still there. And then we create a new asset leaf, right? Because now we have less of that asset. But we now need a new invalid asset leaf that says, hey, the old asset leaf is no longer valid. And we need to destroy the token that represents that real world asset. So we have an old token leaf that needs to, you know, birth a new token leaf with the new value of the tokens. And then again, we need a new invalid token leaf. We need to add that to the nullifier tree that say, hey, the old token leaf is no longer valid. So now we have two trees with leaves, and both of them together you can now prove that certain assets roll up into leaves that are encrypted are actually that certain leaves are valid and others are not. So that's actually quite neat. So now we can keep track of assets and the tokens / the USDs and which leaves are valid and which are invalid, right? So that's what we need. And since all trees have the entire history of everything, we're really, really good from an audit point of view. So 2 thumbs up on that. Now, how does that fancy batching work? Especially fancy batching with privacy. All right, let's come back to that. So we have let's start with a the first leaf, so to speak. There's a ZK state machine for each circuits, right? For each transaction, we have the input is the current leaves and the old leaves. The ZK state machine does its ZK magic, and outcome new current leaves plus new old leaves plus a ZK proof, right? But now we have a lot of them, so we do this thing multiple times, and we do this. We can do the first box in parallel, and now comes the first rollup. Now we have another ZK state machine for a rollup batch, right? And we want to keep this small because we want to be fast. So now we take batches of the output from the first ZK state machine, and we do exactly the same thing, but now we have proofs. So our ZK state machine here now needs to prove that the proof's correct, and that can be done again with our fancy crypto propeller head magic. And out comes new rollup current leaves, new rollup old leaves, plus a proof. And now all these batches are being rolled up again in K batches. Now you have new rollup current leaves. Again, you have the same input, just those are now the rollups. You run it through a similar ZK state machine, and out come the final product. New rollup current leaves, new rollup of old leaves, plus a proof. And that's what's actually going to go on the mainnet as a transaction. So all of this, all these layers end up as one transaction that's not too terribly large because we've used the right ZK magic to keep those proofs efficient and succinct. What does that mean? So the node leaves are encrypted, so only the ones that actually have the that are supposed to see it can see it. The nullifier leaves are hashed. Therefore, leaves between trees cannot be linked, which is great. And our proofs are in zero knowledge. So hey, we're really zero knowledging into here, right? On the compute, well, as I showed you, this can be easily parallelized. So we can do, as we throw more compute power at it, we can roll up stuff better. We can do more and more transaction. We just need to watch out for that final transaction size to not blow up, get too big. Because we have, the mainnet is a public good. We have, a very, we have a gas limit, block gas limit. We can't blow that up. So we need to, be judicious how we're doing it. So we might want to put, we're limiting the number of transaction we put into each block, but we can do a whole lot. We somehow rounded that square pack and pushed it into the round hole. So what, again, there was a whole lot. So what's really Propeller Head Crypto at scale. So now we can really say that what that means. It's higher trust through public blockchains, through public verifiability, and privacy through fancy crypto. We have lower cost, right? Why? Because it's easier to audit, and we have less transaction costs through the aggregation of our transactions. We have faster processing. Why? Because we're doing parallel processing. We can more transactions through rollup, and therefore we have less footprint on the blockchain, the public blockchain. And we have more flexibility and choice, right? Why? We can now have traditional assets underpin crypto assets. We can do an easy back and forth between traditional assets and crypto assets. And we can now extend those traditional assets into the DeFi ecosystem, right? Whether that's, invoice financing or corporate bonds or what have you not. Anywhere where you have traditional assets that are looking for financing, we can now do that and bring in the low cost of capital that we currently have in DeFi. So you can already do that, but not at scale. So the whole point is, yes, I can do a private Aave market or MakerDAO market and finance my assets this way. If I want to do this at scale, that ain't working. And scale we need. So there's a great opportunity, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity, because there are trillions of dollars of traditional assets that are looking for financing. And it's not going to be less, it's going to be more and more. So as I said at the beginning, at that Chimeran area of centralization, opaqueness, and transparency and decentralization lies a $1 trillion opportunity. Thank you. Questions? Comments? Screaming, that is all bullshit. No?
We do have a few people with their hands raised. So
Let's go ahead.
I'm gonna queue them up and allow them to talk right now.
So who's first?
Jordan, you're up. You just have to unmute yourself.
Hey, Jordan. Jordan, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah.
If you have mic troubles, maybe put yourself back on mute, figure out the mic trouble, and we can go to the next questioner. Yep. Until Jordan, you've figured it out.
Yep. So it looks like the next question we have is from Ben, and nope, we already read that one. It's from Ken, and he asked if we could go through the process for doing a transaction. Where does one go? What tooling? Who creates the proof? How long does it take, etc.?
Okay, so sure. So you'll have a wallet, right? So fund investors would have a fund wallet where they can see their holdings and what portion of the holdings they have, and they can then, which is basically the leaves in the node tree that pertain to them, right? Because they have the key, the private key, and those the decryption key that allows them to decrypt those nodes. Now, if they want to, let's say they want to sell an asset, right? They want to liquidate, right? So they're putting in a sell order with the fund right? And the fund is actually the operator of the, or could be the operator of that magic layer, or they could use they are just the intermediary, but let's assume they are for simplicity's sake, right? So what happens is that you know, now we have two counterparties, right? You're actually selling your asset to the fund, and the fund gives you cash, and then the fund goes and sells that asset in the marketplace themselves, right? Or they're giving that asset to new fund investors that just walk in the door. But let's keep it simple. Let's keep it to that example. So you will be sending in your wallet the asset to the fund, and you will receive US dollars that you can transfer out using traditional rails, ACH, or, you know, PayPal, Stripe, whatever, Circle, to your bank account. Complete with, at the end of the year, you're going to get all your paperwork for your IRS filing for your capital gains. What happens in the background is that as that send transaction happens, right? Let me go back here for a second. It's the top layer that happens, right? So you have your current leaves and you have your old leaves, right? So the old leaves is the holding of that asset that you have, and the holding of the asset that the fund has. And the current leaves is after you've sent it, right? So that means you have the note trees, and then you create the nullifiers, right? So as I perform the send transaction, the sale, right, I am nullifying the old balances, the old leave for the investor account, and I nullify the old state, the old balances of the fund account, right? So I'm doing that bit of magic into it and run that through the ZK machine to prove that I did this correctly, right? That the previous and current new balances are accurate. That represents that the sum of the transfer amounts are correct, and that will generate me the proof for this one transaction. Now, obviously, this happens multiple times because there's a day, because there are not there's more than one investor, and in fact the balances need to, you know, I need to rebalance my fund account in my different assets, right? Because my asset might be that the investor sold might have been actually a composite, like in a mutual fund, right? When you have a buy and sell a mutual fund share, right? That is a composite of dozens of underlying stocks. Similar here, you can have dozens of underlying traditional and crypto assets, and if there's, you might have to sell some of those in order to actually generate the cash. So again, you have other transactions that are doing exactly the same thing. You know, it's like moving assets from one account to the other, right? Again, creating, nullifying old leaves, creating new leaves, and running them through the ZK state machine, all in parallel, or if they need to be sequenced in sequence. But they're then all batched together, rolled up in small batches, and then batched together. Again, why you don't do it in one big batch is because you want to be able to parallelize the problem, right? You want to be able to generate the ZK proof actually in your browser, right? And your browser is not exactly the most powerful machine, right? As we know. But with these new the new fancy crypto footwork, that you have, especially around like the new types of prover systems, like the Plonks and the Daphnes of this world. You can actually get very creative in optimizing circuit creation and proof creation. So the compute you actually require is not a browser can actually do, and can actually do in a reasonable amount of time. Reasonable amount of time, I'm not talking about minutes. I'm talking about more of the time it takes when you pay with a credit card at a grocery store. So that's not that bad. So I hope I've been able to answer that question, Ken.
Thank you. So Jordan popped his question into the chat, and it was, why do we need the third layer, rollups of rollups? Is it not enough to keep passing rollups?
Well, again, it's about scale, right? If I only put 30 transactions, if I roll up 30 transactions, or maybe 100, I could do that in one batch. But if I my prover, my ZK state machine is like, I'm churning through those, right? So I'm passing in a lot, and that is sequential then in the end. So it will take more time, right? And if I try to push everything through the eye of a needle of one ZK state machine, when I have the luxury of doing it in parallel multiple times, which means I can do that much faster. And then the last batch is really the batch of batches, right? And that is then also doesn't take that much time. And I have a very, I'm getting a very powerful result at the end. Again, you need the recursiveness in order to do that. You need the ZK-ZK-Rollups. If you care about transparency. If you don't care about transparency, don't want, it's like, and if you don't care about capital efficiency, that's fine too. Use an optimistic rollup. Totally fine. But if you do care, as enterprises do, then you need to jump through these additional fancy ZK hoops. Do we have more? Any other questions?
Nope, that is all that was in the chat.
Okay, great. Wow. Then I think we have exhausted, and we're 10 minutes shy of the hour. We can I think we can start our office hour early.
Sure thing. Let me go ahead and make it so that everybody on the other end can chat.
Right, so let me stop sharing here. All right, so we have now the so thank you for coming and for the wonderful questions. Really appreciate it. Hope that have been able to answer the questions. Now, this is the official office hour of the EA Trusted Compute Working Group. So any questions about any trusted compute topics are open. If you have any questions, about different types of trusted compute approaches, trusted execution environments, multi-party compute, it's like, ZK proofs, what have you not. Go ahead, ask those questions if you have actual projects that you can share and that you have questions about. You want to talk about like specific down and dirty implementation details, how to do X and Y and Z. This is your opportunity. Go ahead. No? No one has any questions? So then maybe I ask a question to everyone. It's like what are you currently implementing with regard to trusted compute? What are the approaches that you're taking, or what type of projects do you have possibly in mind where you want to use trusted compute? I would be interested to hear about that. No, nothing. Okay. Well, if there are no questions and no one is really working on apparently trusted compute projects that they can share, at least publicly, we can adjourn.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation today, Andreas. It was very informative. Appreciate it. This recording will be uploaded to EEA's member site as well as the EEA YouTube channel for anybody who would like to look at it that wasn't able to attend today's session. So I will go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you again.
One thing Jordan asked about a map of references. Yes, there is. Let me before we stop, let me just quickly pop in a good resource about the whole ZK and ZK-ZK-Rollup and stuff like that. One second. Here we go. Give me 1 second. I'm popping this into chat. Oh, we can't copy from chat. Anyway, it's fairly easy. Just Google Matter Labs awesome zero knowledge proofs. Matter Labs GitHub awesome zero knowledge proofs. So that's a great resource for beginners and advanced practitioners. So I can only highly recommend. The Matter Labs guys are really awesome. Love them. Well, I love all the ZK projects that are out there. They're all awesome, and the optimistic rollups too. Everybody's awesome in this layer 2 space. It's to me, it's the most exciting space. Well, that's just me. All right. Thank you that you'll share that out. We're good. Is there a focus meetup group for ZK? I'm sure there is. I would if you there are sometimes consensus R&D does does presentations on ZK stuff during their virtual meetups in Australia, which is so you can if you're interested, you can just search for that on YouTube. So they're available there. Otherwise, it's like look in your the Ethereum engineering group. Yes, exactly. So they have done awesome presentations and everything, like going into even more details than I'm here. This is sort of like was sort of like an try to be a gentle introduction to this really complex topic. But they are doing a fabulous job in going into the technical nitty gritty details, and they also have they have like 1.5 to 2 hour long sessions. So it's always fun. I can never attend live because it's on Australia time. So but I like to listen to them afterwards. So it's always a good resource. JC, any other ideas on resources? Those two were the ones that popped to my head.
Not no more information on that part. I think there was the main ones.
Cool. Yeah, I follow also the interesting, it's like projects in that space. Follow Starkware, Aztec, Loopring. It's like Cartesi is doing some interesting stuff. Of course, ZK-Sync, MetaLab guys. There's like a lot of cool stuff going on there. So also with programmatic languages that are encoded into ZK circuits. So Cairo from StarkX, Starkware, Noir from Aztec, and Zinc from MetaLabs. I think there's also Leo. I'm sure there's more. Those are the primary ones that I have been following over the last year or so, less than a year actually, since they've been popping up. So and most of them have sort of like how-tos, and so you can code up your own circuits. Oh, Gnark consensus. How could I forget? So that's if you know how to code Go, go look at the Gnark libraries. It's relatively straightforward to get going. JC, yes.
Yeah, on the reference base, there is also a really interesting newsletter called ZK Mesh, and it's a monthly newsletter covering the latest decentralized privacy enhancing technologies. I think that if you are wanting to have more information regarding how this space is developing, maybe subscribing to this newsletter could be interesting for you. ZK Mesh. That's it.
Yeah, there's also there's like ZK. Is it zeroknowledge.org or there's also a ZKproof.org. Sorry. This is also, let me share that in chat. This is also, if you want to get involved, want to know more, they also have awesome resources, great research papers. ZKproof.org. How could I forget? They're trying to be the standards organization for ZK proofs. ZK prover system. Great stuff there. Okay. If there are no more questions, then I think we can call it a successful day, or hour, to be precise. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks, everyone.